I'm married and moved in with my husband, Sandy Cove Acres, and right behind me was Brenda Wood, a prolific author and writing coach. She saw some of my goofy cartoons and insisted I should illustrate a children's book she had just finished. I told her she needed to find a real artist, but she worked on me for a year, and we did a book together, and it turned out not too bad. I was on my way. I wrote 3 children's books and illustrated them. Now I had a place for my goofy cartoons to land. She also said that I should write books, and she mentored me along the way. This was a deeply satisfying experience for me to do this. The first book I wrote was a woman who had a childhood that was similar to Frank McCourt's book, Angela's Ashes, and how she triumphed and survived in adulthood. The second was a woman who was bullied into an arranged marriage by her father and how she escaped. The third book was Anna, and she was nobody's victim, so that was very refreshing. I found I loved writing. It seemed there was an attic in my mind where words were stored and beautiful things. And you authors here will know exactly what I'm talking about. And it seems to flow from this resource that you maybe didn't even know you had. I'm also a poet and a songwriter because I love words. My favorite board game? Scrabble. I love words. I have always been a keen observer of beautiful words and stories well told. So, in the outline, they said something about getting your book into print. So, I would say that you no longer have to go with hat in hand to a publisher, hoping and praying they receive your book. You can do it yourself. There's lots of opportunities to self-publish. If you go to a publisher and it works out, and it has for some of you, 3 cheers. So often it does not. You can lose creative control of your book. They can insist you take things out, put things in that you may not be happy with, but that's the deal. Your manuscript can also end up on a pile for a couple of years before you even find out whether they accept it or not. And often the returns are quite scanty. One author who had a publisher said her book sold for $19.95, and of that she got 75 cents. Another received $165 in royalties for a whole year. I would say from the research I've done and the stories I've heard, beware. There are companies out there who will capitalize on your dreams and not give you a dream when you're finished. They can often ask for exorbitant fees. I've heard $3,000 to $5,000, and I've heard of many failed promotional promises. And as I said, the returns can be difficult. Self-publishing was the way to go. I use a company called Volumes in Waterloo. They're a long-standing company, a favorite of many authors. And you can have a finished product with, say, 50 books for $500 to $600, and they're wonderful to work with. So that brings me to the book I'm featuring tonight, which is Anna Outpost Nurse. And she was a friend who had an amazing story to tell, and I'd like to do a reading from her book. She had some very interesting observations as she offered primary health care to First Nations people as a nurse practitioner for 10 years. I think the Indigenous people in Canada have been given a really tough road. They were forced to give up their land and sign treaties thinking they would be treated fairly. The new Canadians didn't have to go to war to get their land. The residential system stripped them of their culture, their language, and who they were as a people, even ripping their children away from them so that they were deprived of their ancestral heritage. The wounds are painful and deeply destructive. For many families, this has caused such brokenness that it has been a struggle to rise again from the loss of their culture, community, and broken family bonds. They are a beautiful people who have such resilience. However, they have been crushed under poverty and social problems, personally and culturally. Still, they keep going, striving to keep their families together through all the trials. Anna's book also features beautiful pictures of life in the North that she was happy to share in her book. Anna's many northern adventures are quite something to read. I cringed as I listened to her describing some of them, how she dealt with a pack of of wild dogs, a pack of wolves, and even a bear. But she was a gutsy farm girl, and she had the backbone she had already learned to solve difficult problems on her own. And her escapes are quite perilous, but amusing sometimes too. It was especially meaningful for me to have recorded Anna's adventurous and purposeful life in this book as she passed away June the 10th of this year. Anna was well respected in the local medical community, and she had scores of friends. That was in evidence when I checked her obituary 2 weeks after she died. It had over 6,000 hits. Her book remains as a testament to her amazing and adventurous life with an outstretched hand to others. And I think her picture on the front also reveals the warmth that she brought to First Nations people. And the book talks about how they gathered her so lovingly into their community. And my table is at the back there, as well as the other books and the children's books that I've read. Thank you for your time tonight.